Welcome to the Press One for Next podcast. We're streaming live with Jenn Lim. She's the Chief Happiness Officer at Delivering Happiness. Welcome so much. I'm so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's looking forward to not only seeing you at CCW Vegas, but hearing you speak here tonight. Give the people who are not being able to attend to CCW Vegas maybe what's your talk about tonight?
So tonight I'll be talking about, I came out with a book called Beyond Happiness, specifically for this audience. We're going to be talking about the future of work, how to adapt, how to grow, how to make an impact, especially in today's COVID and after COVID, like where are we now?
Yeah. That's going to be fascinating. I look forward to being present there. One question I have for you at the very beginning is, how do you define?
So for me, having been in this space for so long, it's so easy for naysayers to say nay. Like, we don't need happiness at work, like just focus on what's important. So for us, I always go back to the science. And science consistently says that, one, we need to be authentic to it. Two, to be able to have a sense of control and autonomy, to have relationships. Ultimately, the most sustainable form of happiness is having
what?
Having a higher purpose. Something you're bigger than, part of something that's bigger than yourself. And I know that word gets thrown a lot, around these days, but it's like from the days of Aristotle to today, it still rings true.
So that is why your book is called Beyond Happiness.
Right.
And so how do we get beyond that, the maybe not the superficial level of happiness of I'm happy because I drank a Pepsi.
Yeah.
Right. But how do you create that baseline so you're maybe consistently focused on the things that matter to you?
Yeah. So nice little promo there.
Yeah. No free ads.
So I really want, because I've been, I'm still CEO of Delivering Happiness. It's been over 13 years now. And it's so interesting to see how the space has changed. Because it used to be novel. Oh, that's a nice to have. How cute, happiness at work. And now it's like, actually, we think it's more fundamental than that. But I wanted to go beyond, because especially all the things that we learned after the last week. What really is matter? Like, what really is meaningful? What really matters? How do we want to spend our time? The time we go to sleep. There's just no way we can just be happy the whole time. So I wanted to bring it beyond, so it's like we can be fulfilled. We can live by our sense of our why, our sense of values, like how we want to live. And if we do that through the course of the day, at least we know we're on the right track, authentic to ourselves and meaningful to life.
So when it comes to being authentic, sometimes it's difficult to have not just authentic conversations, but being authentic to ourselves.
Yes.
So how does my listeners or anybody take those steps to be more authentic to themselves and to others?
Yeah. Well, I do believe that the biggest barrier is ourselves. It's kind of have to get out of your own way, because there's so many little mental constructs and many voices in our head that's telling us that, it's just resistance, and it's natural. It's part of it. But this is where, I've been doing workplace culture stuff and, solutions for that. But this is where the real work comes in. It's like the work you don't get paid for. It's the work on yourself. And basically, it's not like, it's just peel this layer and there I am. It's like layer after layer after onion layer after layer of who am I really? And seeing it in a way that it's not pressure, but seeing it in a way is just be curious about who you are. And that's why I would be honest, because it's not about those highlights all the time. Understanding your lows, your shadows. And that, to me, I've learned is the way we can actually build that fulfilling life. That's cliche, but you can't get happy until you get really grounded in your roots too.
Yeah.
That's how we start.
So, you said the shadows and the blind spots. Sometimes it's probably hard for individuals to see those and identify those. So how do you create a set of peer groups or trusted advisors per se to say, hey, Jen, here's your blind spots. Here's what I see. And obviously you're going to have to create a different level to say, you know what, I trust these people to do what's best for me and to identify what that looks like. But is there another way to help identify that so that you can see where that loads of lows are?
I think it could be a combination. It is a combination. Like if you're the CEO of your own life, let's say, if you're the leader of your own life, you can have definitely a board of directors that you trust. Talk about or just encourage you, all the things that friends do.
Yeah.
The other part of it is actually doing the work on yourself for yourself. And that by going through these book exercises on your website, things that just slowly unravel and peel the layers and being as self-aware as you can in answering that. And maybe you won't get it right the first time, but the more you do it, the more you ask these questions and really understand who you are, and becomes a part of it. It's not like a practice or a habit. It's just it takes time, it takes work, and I think that's why having a lightness about it instead of like, oh man, I don't have a purpose. Like who the hell am I? What am I doing? It's like, no, it's okay. It's all part of the proverbial journey. But the beauty is like, no matter what circumstance we're in, the situation, so many things blindsided us during COVID over the last few years. What we do have is what we can do. Okay. Feel safe and secure. We can't really rely, unfortunately, on others to provide it. That for us comes.
Talking about the voices in your head.
Yeah.
And somebody once told me that he said when your voice is in your head, something happens, and they're consistently going to attack you, the voices, and the question that you need to ask is, who told you that? Like, who is it? You who's telling yourself that, or is it something else?
Right.
And if you know that it's not you, then you can actually do something about it.
Right. That's a great way to look at it. I think also another one or question to layer onto what you just said is, whatever the voice is saying, whatever the circumstances or actions are happening around you, a simple question is that within my control? And then all of a sudden, those voices don't really. If it's outside of your control, it's like, okay, you guys can go to sleep. Like I don't need the.
You can go to sleep. Yeah.
I heard you the first time, but then it becomes just a bit more clearer as to, okay, but I can control this, so I'll try and work on this in this way. Just like little baby steps to feel. A big part of sustainable happiness is progress. And what did we lose during the last few years? It's like progress. We didn't feel like we were getting anywhere. We couldn't get out of our house. Growth was stunted. And now I feel like, okay, kind of back on track now. How, you can tell me you don't believe in happiness and being happy in the workplace. That's totally fine. But I have not met a person yet that says, I don't want to grow. I want to learn more about myself and how I fit in the world. And that, I think, is what the silver lining is. Like, we learned a lot over the last few years. And those that don't let a good pandemic go to waste. Those that actually, digested it and reflected have so much to a lot to a little more clarity as to, oh, this is actually how I want to live my life. This is actually where I want to work and who I want to work with. Those little tweaks, those amount to the bigger part of how we live in it.
Yeah, I mean, if you move 1% away from the moonshot, you're literally thousands of miles from the moon.
Yeah.
And so how do you tweak to where you actually want to go and recalibrate to that? We talked a little bit earlier, right before we came on, you're mentioning it's not just in the United States that you're going through and presenting it, but it's your message is now universal around this beyond happiness. What changed and why is it now gaining steam, or why is it consistently gaining momentum?
I think, when we first launched Delivering Happiness, the company, this is back in 2010, and it was like so interesting to apply scientific happiness to the workplace and get results. And people were happy. So then once Delivering Happiness was formed, DH, then it was like, oh my gosh, I hope this works for other people too. So it became an experiment. And then we started working with clients in the US, and then slowly over time, like Dubai, government Dubai, you got hospital system in New York, and then also like Egypt and Japan and Vietnam, and all of this was like coming to me in a way like, wow, there is some sincerity here about not just rainbows and unicorn happiness, but really fulfilling long-term sustainable purposeful happiness. And so like I'm going next month to Egypt to do this big, interesting, I don't know if I'm supposed to share, but it's going to be this launch that, hey, we're serious about this. We want our workplaces to embody meaningful happiness. And it's not just Egypt, it's like the whole Middle East. So it's like super exciting to know that it's no longer the superficial stuff. Really, I think, forcing function of the pandemic made people realize there's something more to this.
So what are the steps that people need to take to get past that superficial life?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think we talked earlier. It's so subjective, right? How you define happiness, how you define meaning. So I think the practical steps back to doing the and just like spitballing with yourself on what those answers might be. And then if you test these things, your values in the wild, your higher purpose. Is this really what I'm here for? This is what I want to do that's beyond myself. When you have that kind of like running next, at least you can reference it from time to time and ask, to align with my purpose? And then at least you have a goal or a barometer of
I love the barometer because if you know what your purpose is, you know what you believe in and why you believe it, and like you said, you can kind of test the saturation. Like, is this actually what I am supposed to be doing, or should I be doing something else?
right.
Like you mentioned, the pandemic. Maybe somebody doesn't want to travel in an hour and a half into work every day.
Yeah.
Maybe they actually want to go and do something else that's more beneficial to their time and more value to their core values and what they believe to align to their authentic self.
Yes.
I love that. You touched on it a little bit, but you said prioritizing profits with people.
Yes.
How can organizations go about prioritizing and creating the importance of both prioritizing profit and people?
Yeah, this is so especially more important now. Because traditionally it's all been profit driven. That works. We know that builds companies and grows them. But when people talk this fear of like AI's taking over, technology taking over, we're gonna die. But the reality is, what the irony? The future of work is actually being more human. So now more than ever, especially with the things we've learned, it's just not gonna like go just being profit driven without thinking about how you actually sustain your people, how you actually look at them not as a liability. So then they will invest in you inevitably. I'll make sure that those are all aligned at the top. For any CEO or any leader that understands that, it's just that's the future of work. And it's happening right now. Like, thank you, pandemic, for really just shoving it in our face quicker than we thought. But these questions that we have to answer about hybrid or remote, especially for customer centers, is a really important one because at the end of the day, what do they want? They want to feel the flexibility. They want to have that autonomy. They're actually happier and more engaged now than they were before. So if we can actively listen, so many unknowns, it's just a few years. Break a team.
Yeah, exactly. Well, something that does, like a pandemic or even ChatGPT, it's disrupting the current state.
Yeah.
And sometimes when things are disrupted, then you're like, oh, I'm uncertain.
Yeah.
But maybe if you have a foundation to prioritize on and reflect and say, you know what, here is what I believe still, regardless of what is going on around me. Here's my North Star.
Right. Totally, you got it. Because then the chaos can swirl, as it does. But you got your temper. At least you're grounded.
And if you're not, you tend to get into a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to get out of that whirlwind.
Totally. And it's like one of the silver linings I believe is now that we can actually talk about wait, my psychology really matters in what I do and what I think and how I live my life. So thank goodness we can bring that to the table as a big part of how to keep people engaged, how to make sure they're productive. It's like with the psyche.
Yeah.
And mental, emotional health, physical health.
Love that. There's a guy that I interviewed. His name is Tim Kite. He's got an equation. It's called E plus R equals O. And it's the event plus the response equals the outcome. He's like, the event itself is not the biggest deal.
Right.
It's how you react and respond to that. And so from my perspective, the way I read into that is that it's more of a mindset shift than anything. And so when it comes to what you're doing of delivering beyond happiness, what's the importance of a mindset shift?
Wow, what's the importance? I think it's pretty much like fundamental step number one in that. And it's not easy, but I think once you see the value, be more adaptable, having a beginner's mindset and not pretending you know everything. It's like you actually experience the value of that in yourself and in your relationships that matter. So I think it's kind of like shove it, twist anyone's arm to say you gotta be happy.
How dare you not be happy?
Yeah. But it's like kind of being just a bit more open-minded and aware to the different options that we have to get to that place that we all can embody. You bring out such a great point too, because there's this Buddhist story about the someone gets shot. The second arrow is how that person. So that arrow could be that much more, 10 times more painful because of the response. I can't believe this happened to me. Why me? Victim stuff, whatever. So just keeping mindful of those arrows will come, but then it's our response.
Yeah, and arrows are inevitable in life.
Yeah.
And how do we get through that? So let's say that somebody's not in a leadership role today, but they love what you're doing. They've tried this on themselves and they see the impact, but they don't really have the voice of leadership inside the organization. What are the steps that somebody else can take to get them to maybe get a little bit of buy-in in an organization?
Yeah, so this has been so much more important since COVID because, let's face it, we're not all CEOs that can change this over. But the specific point and importance since COVID has been you got to start with the me. That's all you can really do, no matter what role you have. And so starting with the me, I talk about in my book, it's one of what's called a happiness. Basically going through your own life. You're the star of your own show. Highs and lows of your life, not just at work. And you begin to see, you process and analyze it, these patterns of why is it your high, why was it your low? And they're actually really for very similar reasons. For me, it was like after I lost my dad, just having freedom and those were my values, and they're still there today. So doing exercises like that really, reading self-help books are great, inspirational quotes are great, but until you see how you manage to get through those highs and lows yourself, you're not going to be able to see how you're building into whatever the next thing might be. It's like that empowerment within you, what you can do. And I also really believe, like in a small, start to look at yourself as a whole. It's not just a work person. Like, yes, we have our goals and aspirations there. If we look at ourselves as a whole, we have a emotional, relational, joyful, purposeful. Then this exercise in the book makes it a lot more practical. Basically, you're able to plot, take where you are on these things. And some of them are like, yeah, we can celebrate, high five. And some are like, damn, I didn't know I was stuck. I went forward on that one. So it's like having a bit of more of a roadmap, even though things competition. They will, those arrows will fly, but at least you're able to have.
I love that. And I always try to say, as we're here at Customer Contact Week, when somebody interacts with an organization into a customer engagement center, they're not just bringing an issue with them, they're bringing their whole life with them. Right? My kid got a D in math, and I'm struggling with my spouse, and my dad just passed away. Like, they're bringing their life with them, and so it's not just them dealing with an issue of a credit card issue or an insurance issue or a TV issue. It is, I'm bringing my whole self to this interaction, and the same is with the associate. The associate is also, they are representing the customer, or they're representing the organization to the customer, but they're also bringing their whole self. So it's so important to go through these steps to build the foundation so that you are bringing your authentic self to work. So then you can help actively listen to those frontline, or for those the customer, to help them satisfy their specific needs at that moment.
And it's, and to answer your question also, that how do you expand it so it's not just you? You start with the me, but in reality, what I've seen really work well, even if CEOs are not into it, it's like you create your own groups, your own teams that are into it, and you start measuring that. And then when you see people that are more productive, more engaged, and happier, there's no good CEO that's going to say, stop doing that.
How dare you?
Whatever you're doing. That's how we've seen you can scale this idea in a way that you're making sure every note is being hit. CEOs, so CFO, and also we're actually happier people, or more fulfilled. So that's another way to kind of what you can do out of courses.
Love that. So for all of my listeners who want to learn more about what you're doing and your book and your speaking engagements, how do they go about finding you?
I launched a website, it's just jennlim.com, and then the company email, so one of those weird ones. So if you have any questions, I have a team who's here to help you. It's just an important time to do it for one another. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a blast. I look forward to digging into your book. I recommend everybody else do the same. Go and buy wherever books are sold, and I think having more conversations with yourself and reflecting on yourself, and then helping others along the way. So I thank you so much, Jen, and looking forward to your conversation, your talk here later today.
Yeah, thank you.